wonderful world and share the burden of knowledge. My name is Emily Roberts.
And I'm Claire Middeke.
Claire, are you ready?
Sure, I couldn't possibly be ready.
You...
There's nothing I could possibly, no preparation, no meditation, no full night's rest that could possibly prepare me for this interaction.
I have to warn you and the rest of our listeners. It's going to get a little nasty in here today.
Nasty? I hate that word. Let's go.
Yeah, so there's going to be absolutely no crying today, Claire. I cannot spend another hour just cutting your sniffles out. Bottle them up, sis. No emotions on my podcast.
No sniffles. To be fair, the last sniffles had less to do with crying and more to do with the fact that I was sick. Okay. So
there should be a sniffle-free episode.
This should, in theory, be a sniffle-free episode.
Absolutely no bodily fluid in sight.
Well, now we didn't talk bodily fluid.
Get rid of it. I thought we got rid of it last episode, man. All of it gone.
I put my bucket of bodily fluid away.
To the side, just very sadly.
Dang, I brought it just for this too. Shucks.
Man, I gotta tell you, I am recording this live from my uncle's house. Woo! I had to bring my entire setup because I am house sitting while my uncle is down in New Orleans. But it's not a bad gig. Because he just has a ton of German candy, and he's like, eat all the German candy you want. And I'm like, you're gonna regret telling me that.
This is the thing, is I just recently house sit for some family friends, and they did the thing that people do where they're like, you can go for it. If you're part of the family, go eat something. And by the time they got back, I was like, I'm so sorry. You no longer have food. But I did leave them a whole uncooked, unchopped butternut squash that I forgot at their house. So I'm hoping I ate all their food, but now they have
a squash.
So
that's equivalent exchange.
I'm into bartering systems.
Wow, bring it back. Name your next D&D character Butternut. Just really, live, laugh, love your way to success. Both of us are really on this side hustle, gig economy grind.
Oh yeah, we sure are.
We sure are.
I traded in a paperclip for butternut squash. Next stop, a house.
A house.
Hopefully.
I don't know. The housing markets are wild.
I don't understand how those work.
I unfortunately do, because I work in mortgage.
Oh.
Which I bet everyone who has listened to 3 episodes of this podcast is like, how does Emily Roberts, ice skater farmer,
local ice skater farmer,
work in mortgages? And I don't know, sis, but I just sold my soul to corporate America.
Whoop, whoop.
Woo!
As you should. As we all should.
I got that full-time hustle.
With that your dexterous typing hands, high quality, high speed.
Snooping on everyone's appraisals, being like, you got a 5% interest rate in this market? What did you do wrong, sis?
What's your story?
I saw someone with a 2%, in the 2s, and that's wild. That's a wild interest rate, by the way. That is an extremely low interest rate.
Good for them.
Yeah, Claire's eyes are glazing over. She's like, please do not talk to me about mortgages.
This is the thing, is that can't be more, I can't be more removed from this conversation. There's not... That is, the idea of mortgages are so far from where I'm at as a human, and perhaps where I'll ever be as a human, that, you talking to me about mortgages, I'm trying to be present, I'm trying to be engaged, I'm trying to lean in and take up space, but
You're like, I was born in 97. I'm never going to be able to own a home, Emily. And I'm like, neither will I.
This is
as close as I'm going to get, man.
So close, yet so far.
Oh, man. Now that everyone stopped listening because we mentioned mortgages, I think we should just get deep, 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 deep in it.
Okay.
So, I will, as a warning, frogs are nasty. This is kind of going to be like a very loose and fast tour of body horror. So,
Uh-oh.
so if you're not into, like, frogs being nasty, and or if you can't imagine things, this might not be the episode for you.
If you have a mind's eye.
If you have a mind's eye, please be on alert. Maddie did tell us that we almost made her throw up during the hot dog water, would you rather? The hot dog water, would you rather, I should say. And I just want to Claire really wants to speak, but I'm not gonna let her. This is my warning. I want to prevent any more repeats. So prepare yourselves, steel yourselves. It's getting nasty on this one.
I don't like this intro.
Yeah, is that it? Is that all you need to say, Claire?
That's all I need to say. That's the only seasoning I'm going to add to this intro, is that I already don't like it. I don't know anything about frogs. I don't even know the difference between a frog and a toad, if I'm being totally honest. If I'm being vulnerable in this space today.
I do.
What's the difference?
Toads are frogs. They're just frogs with that tend to have a bumpy and dry skin, and they all tend to belong to one sort of family, but they're like a subset of frogs. So all toads are frogs, not all frogs are toads. It's like the square rectangle situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I just like look at a frog thing and say frog. It's definitely frog.
Toad's just bumpy.
Toad just bumpy and dry.
Toad just bumpy and dryish.
Okay. Now I'm in. Now I'm back. You've reeled me back in.
For the purposes of this episode, I'm talking about some toads and some frogs because I love these nasty little creatures. They are my favorites. Claire can attest, I did spend probably a solid 3 or 4 months of my life only responding to messages with pictures of frogs that I felt conveyed my emotions.
That was a good season in our friendship and our group chat dynamics. That was a good season because I didn't know how expressive frogs could be or how different frogs look. You know what I mean? Like certain frogs just be like that and that's just their look, and how much I would relate to just these frogs.
You know how you can spin pottery and 90% of the time you get these beautiful vases that look how a vase should look. And every once in a while you get these weird misshapen lumps of clay. Sometimes some frogs are just weird misshapen lumps of clay. You're like,
this is true.
You're like, it's made of the same thing. So I guess it's a frog, but it doesn't look anything like a frog should look.
Yet again, this is a concerning way to lead into your discussion on frogs.
Okay, let's start. Toads. Where do we start? Because this is, again, we're gonna be taking a aerial view of frogs. This is, we're not gonna get too deep into any one frog, but I'm just gonna start easy and breezy. The largest frog, is the Goliath frog, which can grow 13 inches long and weigh up to 7 pounds.
No!
That's a human baby.
That's a big human baby.
So that's the largest frog, the Goliath frog, which is found in Africa. And the 13 inches long, that's from the tip of its nose to its butt. So if you were holding it up and its big, powerful legs were dangling down, it would be so much longer than 13 inches.
I had a moment where my dumb human brain was like, oh, it's going to be smaller than I think because it's curved. And it's going to be more like a misshapen loaf. But then you added the legs to it and I said, uh-oh. Didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. That's my bad.
All right. So the smallest frog, and everyone's going to have to hold on, and none of you can be mean to me about this. I'm about to try to say the Latin name for a frog, because this frog is so fresh, so new, it doesn't have a common name. So, Paedophrin amanuensis.
Okay.
Is 7.7 millimeters long. or just under a third of an inch. Fully grown. So it's about the size of a housefly.
Oh my goodness.
Little itty bitty buddies.
Oh, he's so small.
So small, so precious. Now I want to get into reproduction, which is where things really take a turn for the worse. So Claire,
you're like, let me hold you, and then
I jumped right out of your arms. It's wild now, folks. So we talked about marsupials, Claire.
Yeah.
And you were like, are there only mammals? Turns out there are marsupial frogs. There are literal frogs called marsupial frogs. So the female frog has a brood pouch on her back where she carries the fertilized eggs. So she lays her eggs, a male fertilizes them. He pushes them into her brood pouch with his little leggies, and they hatch and develop inside of her brood pouch on her back.
She just like raises her kid's like in a little fanny pack, and then
on her back. Yeah, in like a little skin backpack.
A little skin backpack.
A little skin backpack. And some of them will hatch as little tadpoles, and some of them will hatch as fully formed little froglets. Little tiny frogs. So they'll come out of the skin pouch, fully formed little frogs. Because review, frogs do generally have a life cycle of egg, tadpole, frog. So sometimes they'll come out as tadpoles, sometimes they do their whole tadpole thing inside the backpack.
I don't like the idea of them coming out like half-baked, you know? Like,
if you're gonna hold them in your backpack, you might as well let them finish.
You might as well let like, I don't want any underproofed dough. I want like a nice like crumbly bake.
All right, Paul Hollywood.
I want that frog
fully
to be
formed.
Like formed. Like if you're going to have like a Gucci skin backpack that you're keeping your children in, like let them finish like
Claire, I hear
their
you.
journey.
The Suriname toad. Suriname? I don't know how to pronounce any of this. I could have looked it up, but I didn't feel like it, okay? Because I was on the bus, so no one can come after me. This is, that was, nice skin backpack. No big deal.
Yeah.
So the Suriname toad does something similar. When her 60 to 100 eggs are fertilized, the male pushes them onto her back, where her skin grows around them, forming pockets and eventually growing over the eggs.
Okay. Okay.
So what happens when they hatch? They develop under her skin.
Oh no.
Like not skin backpack. Her skin grows over these little eggs.
Oh no. That seems like a design flaw.
And then the fully formed toadlets push out of her skin like the world's worst pimples. The photos are absolutely disgusting, which means, Claire, we're going on a journey called Screen Share.
No!
Here we go. You are gonna hate this.
No. No. Oh, no.
Yeah, bud.
Uh-oh. Turns out I can't have boba anymore. Man, me and Boba tea had a real good run. I really like that sweet tea. Turns out I can't have boba anymore. I'm allergic.
If you're not into holes, this is not the toad for you. This lady's packed full of them.
Oh no, and that's like definitely just her skin. Is she okay?
Definitely she just lives her life.
More of them. She does not look like she's okay. Oh no.
Literally under her skin.
Oh no.
Like there they are coming out, tiny little toads.
No.
Is this upset?
No, procreation is the world's biggest mistake because this is not okay. Her back looks like a cookie mold. Like Oh
Oh,
no.
yeah, we're just gonna keep going.
Emily, no, I don't want to look at
You
these
don't want to look
anymore.
anymore? Okay, okay. I won't make you look anymore. We can stop screen
Oh,
sharing. You're crying.
I am crying. I had a snot sniffle and I cried. I'm so sorry.
We were gonna hold it in, but go off, I guess.
I know.
So
Well, this is the thing is that like I was like, oh man, she's gonna tell me some stuff and I'll be able to hold a sniffle in. But my
I
body said
I'm
I was
nothing if
not ready
not
for a skin sandwich.
I am nothing if not transparent. I told you. We're
You did,
getting nasty.
you did tell me. You were authentic about that. Yes.
So some frogs are wilder, kind of. Maybe. It depends on what side of things you lie on. So we have the Darwin's frog. So when the Darwin's frog hatches, you have little tadpoles. Wipe your eyes, Claire.
I am wiping my eyes. I'm trying to like
Be
handle what's
discreet.
happening.
Just get him on out of there. So the male Darwin's frog will swallow the tadpoles and he will keep them in his vocal sac
Okay.
for around 60 days.
Okay.
And then he'll cough up fully formed frogs.
Okay.
He swallows them until they become little people. And then he coughs them up.
Okay.
Yeah, which is not that bad. There's also I forgot exactly what the word was for it, but there isn't a species of extinct frog that I think the mom actually swallowed the babies and
Okay.
kept them in her actual stomach and then coughed them up when they were fully baked.
I I mean the birthing process for mammals is like a horrific event. So I mean like I'm trying not to come in this with like hard judgment, right? Cuz like
Doing all this research into frog like reproduction, it really strikes true that like I feel like animals, when you get down to it, there's two strategies for reproduction.
two. Okay.
Two. You either make as many babies as possible and hope for the best, or you
Cross your
really
fingers.
take care of like one or two
Yeah.
and get those to adulthood.
Yeah.
So I feel like, some frogs are like, I'm just going to lay 100 eggs and whatever happens, happens. And
Yeah.
some frogs are like, I'm going to swallow my young and keep them in my vocal sac until they become big enough to be fully formed little frogs that I can then just cough out.
I just think about like all those I don't know, like little fiction fantasy stories or like magic Harry Potter-esque things where it's like they cursed the young boy and he vomited up slugs or frogs or something bad for hours. And then like the the mind's eye picture that you get from that is like heinous. So thinking about the fact that like that's a real thing that can happen to my dear frog friends, which is be like bleh, and like have children like
It's really because there's a video of the Darwin frog. Nat Geo has a video of the Darwin frog coughing up young, and it's crazy because he just like shakes really quickly, and all of a sudden there's like a tiny frog in front of him. Like he looks like he just like spasms for a hot second, and then like tiny frog, and then more come out.
okay. I'm really trying to get on board because I feel like I said,
These
there's
are
much
beautiful
worse
creatures.
ways to give birth.
You could be a hyena and have to give birth through your pseudopenis / elongated clitoris.
See now that's not fair, Emily.
Usually, the
That's
first time they give birth,
not fair, Emily. That's not fair. You said frogs, so I am emotionally prepared for what?
okay,
For frogs.
we're not gonna get into hyena reproduction, but
I don't want to talk about hyena reproduction.
the ladies only have one hole, and it goes right through their pseudopenis. So, go off, sis. Okay, so we're done with repro.
Okay.
We're done talking about frog repro.
So we're safe.
So we're safe. Teeth. Some frogs have them. And I'm
No!
I'm just going to leave it at that. Because the idea that frogs have teeth is terrible.
They're not allowed to have teeth.
Just because in my heart, they were always gummy lads. But in reality, some of them have teeth and will bite you.
Oh no! Oh no! Because I just imagine them as my little gummy friends. Do they have pointy biters?
Some of them, well,
Or
some
small
of them,
chompers?
I'm not going to get into it, Claire, because I didn't want to do that much research on frog teeth, but from what I could see, some of them will have like a bony ridge in their upper mouth, and some of them have like actual little teethers. And yeah, so some of them have things that are like teeth, like bony protrusions, and some things have like actual little teeth, and some of them have absolutely no teeth. Just comes down to whether it's big enough to eat mammals.
I'm going to become a frog dentist, and you can't stop me.
I mean, go off, chase your dreams. I love frogs. This is the best. So, how do frogs swallow? You didn't ask. Well, they blink so that its eyeballs can help push the food down its throat.
No way.
Yes, way.
No way.
Yes, way. When frogs blink, they push their little eyeballs into their heads because they're freaks. And it helps push the food down their throats. Because they're freaks. I love these nasty lads.
What?
Yeah.
Who gave them permission? Who signed off on that?
Apparently God.
Jesus?
I think Jesus personally was like, let's goof on him.
That's crazy.
Okay, we're nearing the end of my list of horrible things about frogs.
Okay.
Let's talk about an adaptation to avoid being eaten. So frogs have lots of adaptations. We know poison dart frogs. They're super poisonous. The poison from one frog can like kill like thousands of people. Who cares? Old news. Right?
Yeah, we've been through that.
The hairy frog will break its own bones. Basically, it has a chunk of bone in its back legs and its little toesies that it can force out of its skin in order to make a claw, Wolverine style.
What?
And scientists aren't sure how exactly it gets back in, but it does. So this frog does it multiple So this frog does it multiple times. It will break its own skin by forcing like toe bones out in order to make claws on its back legs.
This has triggered my fight or flight in a way that I was not expecting. I could have never anticipated.
And it's not like they have like a specific muscle for it or anything. Like scientists are really like, we don't know how that bone gets back inside, but somehow it do.
And they do just like, they straight up, it's not just like, oh, that's what the bone does. It slides out of this like little thing in the back.
Like it's definitely not supposed to do that. Like it's not like cat's claws, which are like obviously supposed to do that. Like it breaks the skin.
Okay.
By forcing this like bit of bone out to make a claw. Like this is a bone that's not a claw. Some frogs are clawed. This frog does not have claws. It makes claws. And also it's the hairy frog. And the wildest part about it is not even the fact that it looks hairy.
That's not the wildest part, because I thought it was going to be like, it's hairy, so things don't want to eat it, which I was like, that's a weird plot point.
No, it's the males are hairy for like to attract women. Like
Okay. And then they say, let me defend you. And they just like break their bodies a little bit and patch it back together. And scientists don't know how, which is always a scary phrase. I mean, who needs brass knuckles anymore, I guess?
Just break your bones and turn them into weapons.
That's such the power play of like someone like is trying to mug you on the street and you just like break off your finger.
Yeah. You're struggling. We've really bounced between a lot of very intense facts. So I'm going to hit you with some sci-fi stuff. So, frogs are super important to scientists, and I found this article. So, some scientists are using embryonic cells from African clawed frogs to make tiny living robots that can move on their own.
Is there more information about that?
They're calling them xenobots.
Okay.
I think it's
no.
I think it's a villain name, but go off.
Yeah, no. Do you remember the Alien films with xenomorphs?
Yeah.
Xenobot. Excuse me. So, that's like naming your new park filled with dinosaurs, Jurassic Park.
No.
Get a new one.
It's like calling it Jurassic Land. It's like one beat off. You're like, it feels the same though. Yeah, so basically a computer simulates the shape it needs to be in order to make it move a certain way. And then they form the cells into that shape, and it will move like in circles, or you can shape it so it has a little pocket. So
wait, what? No, I've lost the plot. I'm officially confused.
So
I'm
basically,
officially bamboozled as what? Okay.
Scientists scrape the embryonic cells from a frog. And then a computer does a bunch of simulations, and it's like, okay, if you put the cells together in this way, this little tiny thing will be able to move in a straight line. Or if you put it together in this way, this little tiny thing will be able to carry something in a little hollow part in a straight line. And it like can live for like up to 10 days, I think. Like, quote unquote, live. And it's funny because the article was like, the scientists have acknowledged there might be some ethical issues with this. And it's like, you think?
Hey kids, maybe a little bit.
But they figured out basically how to shape frog cells, and like they'll move on their own and just be cells just out here doing it.
They'll move.
And so science is wild. Whether or not we ever get to the point where we have little robots made of cells, basically programming biology, using biology to do things for us.
Oh no.
Yeah, and they're called xenobots.
No.
Really,
is this a Black Mirror episode? Oh no.
So I'm gonna end with something wholesome, and I don't normally end with wholesome things.
You did something deeply traumatic by this segment, so please.
This segment has really been a way to ruin frogs for everybody. Like, you're never gonna look at a frog again without being like, what's your secret?
What's your bad mistake that you got going on?
What's your bad mistake? But
show me your fingers.
Here's a little wholesome thing about frogs. So, in Turkey, frogs will ride on the backs of water buffalo in order to eat the flies that they attract. So, like, wild buffalo will just be walking around, have like 20 frogs on their back, just chilling out, eating flies. A little symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, that's kind of
wholesome. You can be the water buffalo and I can be the frog on your back.
Oh.
Wow.
I attract the stink bugs and you kill them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I eat them. I consume them.
Oh.
Yum, 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 yum.
Yum, yum, yum.
So
because of my bad stink.
How are we feeling about this, Claire?
How are we feeling about my new knowledge that I have?
Yeah.
The boba back turtle really hurt me. Turtle?
Toad?
I'm broken. The boba back toad hurt me.
Yeah.
Deeply.
Yeah.
Profoundly.
Yeah.
Everything else was very challenging. I did start crying. To be fair, I have been crying more. Like, where I just, like, my eyes will water up for no reason.
It's because you started a podcast with me.
I think it's because I started a podcast with you, and I think that's the repercussion, is that my eyes tear up.
For sure. Because I knew things were going to take a turn when you were upset about the easy fact, which was large frogs.
Large frog. Well, the thing is I thought I had gotten my head around the large frog, because I was like, oh, this is the size, and then you're like, you know what? It's only head to butt, and I was like, oh, they're kind of curved, like a weird loaf. And I was like, okay, so it's gonna be a little bit shorter than I think it is. And then you said, but what about them leggies? And then like my heart stopped, like a chill ran down my spine. Okay, so man,
Frogs.
okay, skin backpacks, skin sandwiches, boba boba toads, balloon skeletons. There's a lot of bad things that we just experienced together. So I would like to kind of like pivot onto something, and like I'm gonna need us to make sure that the next 5 episodes we don't mention Maddie at all.
Who is she? I don't know her.
I don't know her really either, but she's been a topic too many times. But
Let's talk about Rachel. Let's talk about friend of the
I
pod,
want to talk
Rachel.
about we have other friends besides Maddie, but unfortunately for all of us, Maddie brought to the table this.
Uh-oh.
I know she has been like feeding you bad ideas for like what to bring
She
to
has.
the podcast, and then she brought me this one real nice one. So, which people can do. Like, please send me your nice things that are going on in the universe. So, I don't. So, this is a problem that's also in the United States. So, like, you know, in the United States where we have like large swaths of like rural area where we do not have enough hospitals, and the hospitals don't have enough access to like quick resources. It's like a huge issue, and it results in like there's over 100,000 women across the world who die from childbirth issues, right? Of just like blood loss specifically during childbirth. Huge issue. So, the thing that I want to talk about today is there's a company called Zipline that was started in the people who created it were from California, but it was implemented in Rwanda. President Paul, and I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna mess it up.
Everyone send Claire hate mail for messing up this name.
I know it's a president of Rwanda, and I'm gonna goof it, but it's Paul Kagame, I believe. That's a president. Now, I don't really know anything about him, but I do know that he signed off on this idea, which is a healthcare logistics company and them partnered so that we have these little mini drones essentially that will ship blood and platelets and medicine to locations in Rwanda that would not previously had access to it, or more would not have had timely access to it. So that's the concept.
Can I tell you I already knew that this existed because I watched a PBS, like public television thing on it, so I'm very excited to talk about this.
PBS. So the first person that was saved by it was, I'm going to mess it up again, Ghislaine Mbazwe. This was a small girl. She had acute malaria. By the time that she was finally able to arrive at the hospital, she was not moving. Her mom had already sent word back to the little town that they live in saying that, like, this is not going to go well. They thought that was impossible. And in order for them to get the blood or the platelets that they would have needed, it would have taken a 3-hour round trip to get the medication, and she would not have survived. But first time ever, you have this drone that's able to cover that distance, that's able to arrive in about 6 minutes, and it saved her life. So, drones are like a really hard topic, right? Because they have been used already for a lot of gnarly things, a lot of gnarly like military things. But this idea of using it in a way that's promoting health has been awesome. And the program itself, Zipline, has partnered with people in Rwanda. So everybody who's running the operation in Rwanda are engineers and business people from there. It's 100% operated by them.
Love that.
I love that. The creators of it were Keller Ronaldo, Will Heltzer, and they communicated with this guy in Tanzania called Zachary Matema. Yet again, probably messing with their name. But Zachary had done, he had created this program that was sharing information between different nurses and doctors from different hospitals. And it was compiling essentially like these lists of people who had, because they had not had access to like timely health care, these preventable diseases or situations, all these people had passed away. And that led these people to create Zipline. So it's battery powered. It looks like a little small airplane. It can travel 68 miles per hour. It can go 150 kilometers on a single charge. And as of right now, can carry up to 2 kilograms of like blood or platelets or whatever. Part of the things that it helps with is a lot of some of the substances that they're providing, they would have to remain like cold for the entire like trip. So they would have to. So what you need to know is that like in Rwanda, they have roads and all that stuff, but they have long, severe raining seasons where you would not be able to travel to certain areas. So because these drones are built to be able to handle the like hot deserts of California and the rainy mountains in Rwanda, you're like, it's able to save lives, and it's incredible. So everything is able to be like more centralized, which means that there's less waste, because the alternative would be like, okay, we have a bunch of blood at all these different locations, but that means what if one location needs more? So even though they're at a bunch of different locations, that means there's going to be more waste because not every location will be able to use that amount, and then not every location would have enough. But if it was super centralized, then like not enough people would have access. But now it's able to be super centralized and everybody is able to have access. So within a 9-month period, they had like zero loss, like zero wasted blood, which is like unheard. That's unheard of. And Killer Ronaldo had this like TED talk that was talking about this idea that like, one, America's perception of Africa is obviously awful. Like everyone knows it. Everyone like sees the ads where it's like, help out these poor people in Africa. But Keller had this point. This is his little quote that, yes.
I mean, not before you get into it. I mean, there's been so many instances where people just refer to Africa as like, oh, like it's a country like Africa and not like the largest continent in the world full of diverse
no, they
countries
do
and
it all the time.
peoples.
I've had people in my classes, in my college classes, say things like that. I have had people who like the only image that they have in mind of Africa is like a small village that is struggling and has malaria. It's like, no, there are large, complex cities and countries in Africa that are doing incredible things. So that's one of the things that Keller Ronaldo pushed back again. He said, small, agile, developing economies are able to innovate better than large, rich ones, and they can totally leapfrog over the absence of legacy infrastructure straight to newer and better systems. So they're able to implement this huge, expansive program where they're delivering blood, platelets, oxycodone to all these different areas in a way that we would be unable to do because we don't have that kind of flexibility here. And so I think it's incredible that this is happening. And this idea that like one thing that seems kind of like a small idea of like, oh, we can have these small drones delivering supplies. One idea can totally like improve the life expectancies for like an entire country. Is awesome. So there is some plans of like pulling that off in America as well, because like I said before, like there's large swaths of rural area in America where we really shouldn't be dying of blood loss or lack of platelets because we have the resources. But unfortunately, like
If you're out in the middle of nowhere and
if you're out
not
in the middle of nowhere, even if you get to a hospital in time, they might not have the resources to be able to keep um, they might have not just even like they might not have like the monetary resources to keep these things, but they might not like a lot of these things are only good for a certain amount of time. Like you can't keep blood forever. You can't
what?
keep platelets forever. What?
Are you telling me that I have new
What?
blood?
I mean, I'm gonna get you some new
Get me
blood
some new
because
blood.
from what I can tell, like you got that nasty and like
Hey, my blood's in high demand. I get bribes. I get bribes for my high octane blood.
oh, that's
I got
right.
that good blood, baby.
You got that good Kush blood.
And now I can get paid to go give blood because it's a part of my full-time benefits to have volunteer hours.
What?
Yeah, I have 16 hours a year to do volunteer stuff. So I can be like, hey, I'm going to take a volunteer hour and go give blood today.
Give blood 16 times in a year, please.
That might be too much.
No, as someone who's going into the healthcare field, I don't see a problem with that. They want your blood? Let them have it. Stop hoarding it.
I'm keeping
I
it
get
all
calls
to
from,
myself.
and that's selfish of
Don't
you.
need it, get rid of it.
You have too much anyways. I'm concerned for you.
I'm about to burst.
Oh, that's not.
I am like that girl who turns into a blueberry in Willy Wonka, but blood.
Speaking of body horrors, Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka is also a tour de body horror.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Oh, absolutely. Who needs the fact that like he didn't get to frogs in that movie? It was just like a time thing. If he had more time in that factory, they would have gotten to the frog section.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I like about your stories, I think it highlights something that you said in the beginning, which is that like new technology is oftentimes very scary. Like you get xenobots, you get these crazy things. And I think it's like easy to be scared of stuff like drones because like there's very real world practice where they're being used in ways that harm. But I think it really comes down to like technology by itself like is not good or bad. It's how we utilize it. And I think it's really like a you know, a mindset thing, unfortunately, where we're creating solutions for problems, but I think that what we're considering problems, what we're prioritizing as problems, aren't always actual problems or aren't always the problems that need to be solved.
Yeah, and I like the idea of like it's not simple because it's like the design itself is not simple and like implementing it is not simple and like I'm not trying to but the concept of like yeah, we have these things that can fly to
Centralize
places.
your whole healthcare system.
Centralize your whole healthcare system then because you have a delivery system now that is really effective. The fact that like it takes us a while to get to that place is kind of silly, but I'm happy that you have people that are able to think outside the box of like, oh, yeah, we can use drones to deliver pizza, but what if we use drones to like make healthcare more accessible? It's like, oh, that's an option. We can actually think about that. That's not a silly idea. That's a real possibility.
Or it's like something that I read about is like using AI, and like AI freaks me out and I don't want to think about AI. And Luna, excuse you, please do not be. I'm talking about AI.
Now's not the time. I know you are AI, Luna, but now's not your time.
It's not the time. But like AI freaks my bean. I don't like thinking about AI. I don't like thinking about the moral quandaries and the ethical things and the philosophical things that arise when you think about AI for even longer than 1 second. But like scientists, for example, are using AI to like count animals on trail cameras to get more accurate population counts in a way that's much quicker than they would ever be able to. So it's like you could do AI to like spy on people and stuff, or you can use AI in ways, it's all about taking things we have and like I'm for science and technology. I know a lot of this podcast is this is so icky and it freaks me out and I don't like it.
Yeah.
But I'm also very pro like these sorts of innovations where it's like I never would have thought, hey, we can use drones to send perishable, medical supplies to remote areas and save lives and make lasting impacts in communities. And now we can, because I think a lot of the times too is we exist sort of in this, and I think it's maybe a very American thing. I don't want to generalize for the whole world, but I mean, we are rapidly becoming a more and more urban country as opposed to a lot of countries that have been urban. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very American mindset that's kind of like, well, if you don't have this thing in the rural area, just move to the city. Like I think that's very much a new American kind of way of thinking where it's like, well, I want good internet, so I move to the city, instead of, well, why don't we improve our internet infrastructure so that everyone can have access to high-speed internet.
Yeah.
I think we have a thought process like that where it's like, oh, why don't you as an individual do this thing? It's just nice to know that like these people in rural areas aren't being punished for staying in rural areas, staying in their homelands, and keeping their traditions. Like they don't have to move in order to have access to life-saving care.
I also like this idea that like it's not inevitable. You know what I mean? There's this idea of like, okay, if you live in a rural area, you're just not going to have access to the same thing. So it's inevitable that some people are going to die from this. There's nothing we can do. But the fact is that we have resources and we have technology. And the fact that we can use this technology in ways that benefit people that would have previously not had it. Awesome.
And I think sometimes like there's this like weird like energy or thought process that somehow people who live in predominantly rural areas, and especially poor people who live in predominantly rural areas, somehow like deserve to not have access to these sorts of things, even though like having access to life-saving medicine should not be dependent upon where you live.
Yes.
I mean, let's be real, like pop culture, it's not even just American perceptions of Africa as like a poor rural place, but also like our own perceptions of our own poor rural areas as being, backwards and dirty and, full of stupid, ignorant people. And it's like, you aren't lesser based on where you live. I guess that's where I'm getting to it. Yeah. People deserve to be able to have blood.
Yeah.
If they choose to have blood.
If they choose to have, that's a real thing. If they choose to have blood, they should have it.
They should have it. If you choose to have saline. Go off. I don't know.
Go off. If you choose to have saline. Yeah,
Absolutely. Wow. This was a cool thing to talk about. Not a whole lot of comedy, a whole lot of commentary, but I feel like we all learned, and maybe we can all take a moment to reflect on our prejudices. Because I know that I fall into the trappings of, rural people are, they live in the country, that's, what happens. But yeah, I mean,
it's important to reassess.
Wow. There was
no comedy in that at all. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And like, maybe bigger pictures, like sometimes you think, oh, well, this is just the way things are because this is my situation. And it's like, well, sometimes you have to reassess. You don't know what tools are now available to you. Things
Man,
can always improve.
you're right. Aw, man, my heart's all warm now.
Your
I
heart's
got
so
the.
warm now. Let's have a would you rather.
Uh-oh! That's what's gonna
Uh-oh.
keep my heart warm. Can I tell you, the last would you rather messed with my entire week. Did I tell you this? Messed with
No,
my
you did not.
messed with my entire week because I kept on going up to people that I know, coworkers and whatnot, and be like, okay, obviously, we're gonna have some split decisions on should we drink hot dog water or weird
That
ketchup
wasn't
juice
last week's, by the way.
or whatever, 2 or
That
3.
was episode 3's, but go
It
off.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it's haunting my everyday life. It's haunting my everyday life. I keep on
Turning around and there's hot dog water?
like a I don't know what's happening. Like I feel like the only person who has been like the hot dog water is easily the grossest option, right? And everyone's been like, no, I would rather drink hot dog water. I'm like, oh, that's absolutely crazy. That's absolutely buck wild. How could that's like how am I alone in that? I don't understand it. And then, well, and then I did this weird little quiz that was like, oh, what kind of it was like a whole joke quiz, like one of those things on Instagram that's like, oh, what kind of office character I am, and it's like, oh, Dwight Schrute. It was like one of those little things on Instagram, except this time it got like as far as what I got hot dog water. And I was like, is the universe taunting me?
Yes. Delicious. Claire, let's reset things. Let's get things right. Let's get a new would you rather. This one I feel like is going to be really. I don't know if this is going to divide us, but would you rather be covered in fur or covered in scales?
Scales?
I'm scales. I'm team scales.
I think that would be like
Sick. It'd be so cool to have
sick
scales.
as hell, right? Right?
I want everyone to understand because I feel like all of our other friends and listeners are like, fur all the way. I want to be soft. I want to be warm. Listen, I'm thick. I sweat constantly. I'm always warm. I do not need a coat on. I'm a warm person. I'm a warm person.
I don't need more. I don't need more warmth. I don't like hair. I'm already mad about the hair on my head that I do have.
Wouldn't it be so satisfying too to like be able to peel your scales every week
Oh
in
God,
just
yes.
big
Yeah, yeah.
chunks?
I want to. Are you kidding
That'd
me?
be so nice. That'd be so nice. I'm gonna get nasty. That really would like being able to pick at like chunks of dead skin scales falling off would
So
be
satisfying.
absolutely satisfying for
I just want to
me.
curl up on a rock
I
and
don't know
sit
if
in
we
the
become
sun.
reptiles. I think we just have scales.
But I feel like no, I don't think you're understanding. I just feel like that would be so satisfying with being like a new scales human. Like sitting in the sun, already satisfying. Sitting in the sun this time, but with scales, has to be more satisfying.
My question is, do you think the scales would be like the color of your skin or your hair?
Mmm. Mmm.
Because if it's replacing, like, if the fur, if you're covering your body in fur, fur always translates to hair, right?
Yeah, I don't know that scales translate to hair.
I don't know if scales translate to hair. Like, would I have blonde scales?
That would be odd.
Because scales, I think, are skin, and fur is definitely hair, right? Can we agree on that?
I feel so yes. The thing is that I feel like I would also do like a full body dye. Like I would
You
be
would try
like,
to dye your scales.
yeah, because I'd be like, these scales are cool, but what if they were blue and now I'm a Smurf? You know what I mean? Like that's
I mean, whatever you're into.
or like now today's. You know what? I have a date night. Now my entire skin's red. Happy Valentine's. Like that's like
Why don't you do that now as a human being, though?
Because I don't have scales.
Well, you can just, like, dip yourself into some Kool-Aid for a couple hours and dye your skin red.
Yes, and you're saying I could become the Kool-Aid man. This is true.
You could become the Kool-Aid man.
At any given point, I could become the Kool-Aid man, and I don't like being aware of the potential that I have.
We're all just a couple bad decisions away from becoming the Kool-Aid man.
Or a couple good decisions.
Or a couple good decisions.
I'm a couple of good decisions away before becoming a Kool-Aid man.
Honestly, he seems like...
He's breaking down barriers. He's crashing down walls. Like, that's what I want.
Question.
Uh-oh.
Because this made me think, though, like, of all the food mascots that you can be, I feel like Kool-Aid Man's, like, one of the top ones in terms of sheer power, right?
Like, raw, unadulterated strength.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say Kool-Aid Man, right? What else do you have?
Kool-Aid Man is the only person who can bust through a wall and be welcome.
Yeah.
That's some both political, social, and physical power. So, Claire, do you wanna send us out and wrap this up?
I would love to send us out. Thank you for coming with us on this auditory journey. It's been heinous and educational, and for parts not funny at all. But we all learned something. So, we do have that going on. So I'm going to consider that a positive. You can find us right now on our Twitter and our Instagram at Chaos Considered, at those following things. And then we have a beautiful email called chaosconsidered@gmail.com, where you can submit to us all of the possible topic suggestions and responses to the Would You Rathers with your explanations, which we will read if we get them. Or if they're good. If they're bad, we won't read them. No.
Sorry, Maddie.
Yeah, Maddie. Big whoop. Also, Maddie, we're not going to be talking about you anymore.
We're not going to talk about you anymore, Maddie. Please, Maddie, stop it.
Maddie,
stop it.
Maddie, stop.
Stop it.
At this point, it's upsetting. Stop.
This isn't your podcast, Maddie. Please.
This is our podcast. Not everything. God, not everything is about you, Maddie. Jesus.
Maddie, come on. Anyways, as of now, we are on a lot of different a lot of different podcast places. So, please follow us, like, share, leave reviews. We are on iTunes. We could really use some good reviews, guys. Also, just like, if you're enjoying our podcast, please let us and tell other people, like, in terms of numbers growth, like, that's, we like that. That's great. But I think we like
of being your dirty little secret.
I think what we like even more, though, is, like, actually, hearing from people. So honestly, if you take the time to say hello, like, that's awesome and highly recommended.
And I do this to make friends. So
we do this to make friends. We're not doing this for any other reason.
Yes. I would agree with that.
Also, we should thank your sister.
Oh my goodness, for the use of the logo.
The use of our logo. And you can also check out, if you want to see more sources, notes, pictures, things like that, head over to our website, chaosconsidered.com. And that's it. I think that's it. I think we've done it, Claire.
We did it again.
We can end the podcast, finally.
And I'll never drink boba tea ever again.
Listen, frogs are the best.
I don't know if that's what we learned today.
I think that's what we learned today. I think frogs, put them on a drone, send them everywhere.